Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video, I'll be reviewing the G.55S. This is a currently 5.0 BR Rank 4 premium fighter in the Italian Air Force's tech tree. This vehicle currently costs 4,300 golden eagles when not on sale, and comes with 15 backups. With that said, in this video, I'll be going over everything that you need to know about this fighter, including its stats, how it plays. I'll go over its strengths and weaknesses, I'll give it some scores in several key areas, and then I'll give my final recommendation, and if I feel this vehicle is worth purchasing or not. With that said, if you like this kind of video, please consider subscribing as it helps me out tremendously. But without further ado, let's get into the review. To start, I'll place its stat card here on the side of the screen. Important things to note are its top speed, its armament, and its turn time. Now for how it plays. This is basically a standard G55, except that it lacks the HMGs of the G55, though the S can carry a torpedo. This slightly reduced weight from having no HMGs means that the G55S has a slightly better rate of climb and slightly improved maneuverability over the standard G55. With that said, the G55S is a weird plane because despite its somewhat powerful engine and its mid to late war design, it really isn't all that fast relative to its BR. This somewhat hampers its rate of climb, especially considering that WEP usage will overheat the engine fairly quickly. It isn't outright bad insofar as rate of climb is concerned, but the G55S will struggle to get to the altitude of any bomber that isn't dropping its own altitude for whatever reason. Regardless, it will still be able to climb to give or take 2,500 or so meters by the start of most fighting in Air RB, which is all that most people will need. Once it engages in fighting, the G55S has an excellent armament of 3 MG151 cannons with 650 rounds in total, which is fantastic, as these are easily among the best 20mm cannons in game before you start getting to higher BRs. Because of this, the G55S will pretty much be able to destroy any aircraft quickly, including the occasional bomber that you can sometimes reach. Despite looking fairly large, the G55S is extremely nimble, which helps to make up for its lack of top-end speed and somewhat limited climb rate. Because of this, it can easily turn with fighters like the Spitfire and BF-109 and can outturn many other aircraft. This is a huge advantage as you won't be able to boom and zoom with this aircraft as much as you might want to due to its aforementioned faults regarding its speed. You can somewhat think of a G55S as an Italian analog to some of the more heavily armed Japanese fighters of this BR. It might not be as nimble as a Zero, but it still is much more maneuverable than most other fighters, even considering its lack of speed. Because of everything mentioned, you cannot reliably use this vehicle as an interceptor. Rather, shooting down bombers should only be done if they bring themselves to you, not the other way around. Otherwise, use the G55S as a pure dogfighter, outturning enemies and shooting them down once you get a bead on them. Try to drop down on lower altitude enemies if at all possible, in order to take them by surprise. Because the G55S's proficiency in handling, it is advised to improve your crew's stamina and G tolerance when using this plane. Now for close air support, the G55S is largely a stinker. While it can use a torpedo, this is only possible in naval battles, and even then you have to get uncomfortably close to enemy ships in order to possibly get a hit with a relatively weak torpedo that is mostly strong enough to destroy ships up to the size of light cruisers or lightly armored heavy cruisers. Torpedo aside, the G55S really doesn't have much in the way of anti-ground ordnance, only being able to carry up to 2 100kg bombs or 2 50kg bombs. The larger of these bombs is enough to destroy a single target with a fairly precise hit, or up to 2 enemies that are right on top of each other, whereas the 50kg bombs demand even more precision, which is not going to be easy, considering that the bombs are placed far out on the wings. If nothing else, it can drop its bombs separately rather than simultaneously, which means that you can drop bombs on separate targets, which might increase success in CAS slightly. Otherwise, you have your 20mm cannons, of which can be used for strafing, but they are only decent at this job. The MG151, for all of its excellence versus aircraft, is only decent versus ground targets, so you can really only destroy unarmored vehicles with any degree of consistency when strafing. Because of its weakness in CAS, I would advise to drop your bombs quickly in order to change to an air cover role in which you shoot down enemy aircraft, which is what the G55S truly excels at. Now with all that being said, let's get into its strengths and weaknesses, and first for its strengths. It has great armament of 3 20mm MG151 cannons with an excellent 650 rounds in total. Second, it has surprisingly excellent maneuverability that will be at or near top tier for this BR. Third, it can carry a torpedo, though it's a fairly weak torpedo in terms of explosive yield. And finally, it has premium RP and SL bonuses. Now for its weaknesses. First, the engine overheats fairly quickly, especially when using WEP. Second, relative to BR, the top speed is subpar and is noticeably mediocre when in a dive. This all means that its average speed tends to be quite low, which is noticeable when trying to outrun enemy aircraft and even when trying to outmaneuver them, as more agile foes will be able to close the gap between them and you quickly while also turning with you. For its third weakness, its roll rate is mediocre. Fourth, this vehicle has a poor anti-ground loadout. And finally, relative to fighters, the wings are fairly large and can be an easy target for enemies to hit. For perspective, though smaller, the G.55S is close in size to the P-47 series of planes. Now with all that being said, let's get into how I score this vehicle, and first for dogfighting and ARRB, I give the G.55S a 6.5 out of 10. If only its speed were slightly better, this rating would likely be much higher. Alas, the G.55S has surprisingly excellent maneuverability, a great armament, and mediocre top speed, which still allows for this plane to be thoroughly great in terms of dogfighting. If you can overcome its deficiencies in terms of speed and somewhat of rate of climb, the G.55S can dominate enemy aircraft. Unfortunately though, its speed is a major weakness that you will constantly bear in mind and overcome when using the G.55S. Now for close air support, I give it a 2.75 out of 10. While it at least has bombs, they are fairly small and require precision and will oftentimes also require that you get very close to enemies before dropping them. At least you can drop them individually, which does bring this score up slightly, but only by give or take around 0.25 points. Otherwise, the MG-151 cannons are very meh when it comes to strafing and won't be as reliable in killing ground targets as Hispanos or even 50 cals, as 50 cals tend to have far more ammo and are shot from typically 6 to 8 guns per vehicle rather than the 3 MG-151s present on the G.55S. I guess I will include the torpedo in this score, but it is so light and requires you to get so close that it is neither a negative nor a positive in this score. It just simply exists as a usable though meh option to use in naval battles. Now overall, I give the G.55S a 5.25 out of 10. While the G.55S is a very good aircraft for shooting down other aircraft, it puts almost all of its skill points into maneuverability, with a few left over going into armament, while almost entirely neglecting speed. This means that the G.55S is a vehicle with a fairly unbalanced approach that may be dissatisfying to some players that like a little bit of everything. This by no means makes the G.55S bad, but it will benefit those that like Japanese prop fighter gameplay more than what you would expect from European prop fighters. Otherwise, for close air support, this is a plane that you either use in desperation, or because you want to shoot down enemy aircraft that are trying to destroy allied ground units. Now with that said, do I recommend purchasing the G.55S? For most players, no. The only people that I will recommend this vehicle for are those that love turning fighters, don't care at all about speed, and like MG-151s. And even then, that limited recommendation is only when the G.55S is on sale, as it has a fairly high cost of 4,300 Golden Eagles when not on sale. Simply put, the G.55S is somewhat of a niche fighter that excels in some areas, like maneuverability, and a little bit in terms of firepower, but is thoroughly outclassed in terms of speed and rate of climb. People who like more balanced planes like the P-51, Bf-109, or even the Spitfire might not enjoy the G.55S, though I thoroughly recommend taking it for a test drive before considering its purchase. In short though, the G.55S is a great plane for what it does, but what it does is somewhat limited. It lacks good CAS capabilities, and is really just great at getting in close to enemies to outturn and outshoot them. Asking anything more than this plane may be asking a bit much, and for that reason, I also do not give the G.55S my Tankenstein seal of approval. It can be a ton of fun to play, but the lack of speed can be frustrating, especially when trying to chase down enemy planes or trying to disengage from a fight. Now with all that being said, thank you all so much for watching. Please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel if you like this kind of content. Further, considering commenting to let me know what you guys think of the G.55S and of course of my review on it. Either way, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all on the other side. Take care, everyone.